Hello and welcome to the Health Wizard podcast with your host, Elena Wilkins, who happens to be me. I'm so excited that you are choosing to listen to this podcast because you're choosing to put your health as your priority. This podcast is dedicated to teaching the most natural, amazing means that you can use to get your health back on track and reclaim the person that you used to be before getting sick. Now, very quickly, before we dive into the good stuff, I just wanted to remind you that this podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. My podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you have a medical condition, please seek the help of a licensed medical professional. We're not medical doctors and we do not treat, diagnose, prescribe, or make any claims outside of what we know or what we do. So by choosing to listen to our podcast, you take responsibility for your own actions. And if you hear the testimonials of people who were able to get well, you'll realize that their outcomes depended on their effort and their specific condition. With that said, let's jump into today's topic. Please enjoy. So welcome everyone. As you're tuning in, this is Elena Wilkins. I'm the creator of 360 Degree Hormones program, where we teach women, one of them you're going to meet tonight, how to overcome their hormone imbalances in the most natural, uninvasive way. And tonight I'm bringing your way a wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous Nikki, who is about to go on a summer break. She's a teacher. She went through our program last year, and when she came to us, she had it was hyperthyroidism and Graves' diagnosis. From what I remember, you took some supplements, not as many and not as crazy as most people who come to us, but you were also on medication. So I wanted to say welcome, Nikki, if you can introduce yourself and tell a little bit, everybody who's tuning in, who you are, and then let's talk about what brought you into 360 Degree Hormones.
Okay, well, you did a wonderful job. My name is Nikki. I'm a teacher of 25 years, second grade, and what brought me to your program was last summer I was sitting scanning through Facebook, and up you popped. I had been to my doctor 4 years prior. I had been diagnosed with hyperthyroidism after the death of my mom and her husband. I thought I was going into the doctor to talk about stress and all those symptoms, but it turns out that it was hyperthyroidism and Graves. So I went on medication, and that took care of things for a while, and I was okay with it until I guess I shouldn't say I was okay with it. I'm never okay with taking medication, but every time I went to the doctor and asked if there was something I could do dietary wise or anything, the answer was always no. So I just decided that that was the way it had to be, even though I wasn't comfortable with it. And then I switched doctors and asked the same question, switched doctors, asked the same question, and always got the same answer. No, there's nothing you can do. And then up you popped, and
I like it. That pop out of
like a genie. And then so I was listening to your initial and writing down notes, and I said to my husband, I said, now look at this. This is saying something different, because the last time I had been to the doctor, then they were talking about having to, radiate or then remove.
Yes, the radioactive iodine treatment.
Yes, and I did not want to go that route. And then one thing the doctor said to me on the way out one day, he quickly came back in and he said, oh, by the way, if you ever have this, and this symptoms, call me right away, because the medication you're on can cause liver failure. And I said, oh, well, nobody's ever said that to me before, but thank you very much. So at that point in time, I knew that I wanted to do something different, because none of those options sat very well with me. So
yeah, what a surprise. Merry Christmas. We're treating you for hyperthyroidism, but your liver might fail you. And what comes with that, right?
And then the other part of it is if I was always worried that if I took my thyroid out or if it was radiated, then it would put me into hypo, which then causes all the other issues that go along with that. And I didn't want to go down that route either.
So it sounded like you got educated very well on what can happen when you remove your thyroid gland.
Yes.
Yes. And for most people who come to us and they don't have a thyroid gland, it was not like, oh my God, it felt amazing. They usually go, oh crap, what happened? It just felt so much worse right after that.
Yeah, I didn't want that. So I was thankful to come across you and the ideas that you had. And it was what I was looking for anyway. It was just nice to have somebody out there say this can happen.
Right. And I remember it was right a couple of weeks before school.
It
So you
was.
said yes, you enrolled. We go through the process. I'm like, we need a ring for that. She said yes. But you said yes, you enrolled, and we were having your first conversation, and you said it would be just nice not to drag myself from after the first day of school when everybody, you were afraid. I think your biggest fear at that point was that you'd be exhausted to come back home after being in school for a whole day. And then we had a conversation after your first day in school. So let's talk about how was it for you? Like, is it really possible to make it happen in 2 weeks, and what happened after 2 weeks?
I was pleasantly surprised. I was because yes, the first day of school, basically you come home, you sit on the couch, and that's where you stay for the rest of the evening because you're just exhausted from being on this high and going. So yes, I that was amazing. I came home and I had energy to take the dog for a walk. I had energy to make dinner. I had energy to have a conversation with my husband, and I didn't need to sit down, take a rest, and fall asleep until the next day. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and I think if I remember it right, that you even went to play volleyball or something like that.
Yes, I did.
See,
Yes,
I have good
you
memory.
have a
This is what
very good
happens
memory.
after you fix the brain. And one of the things, so I know when I had hypothyroidism was about 15 years ago, one of my bigger symptoms was that agitated the heck out of me. That was this almost like memory loss, brain fog to where you don't remember things. And I think that was one of your symptoms too.
It was. I had a very difficult class last year, and so that added to things. I was to the point where I would go to my teaching partner and say, I think I'm losing my mind, and she had felt that way and went to the doctor and she said, all you need is this little white pill and it takes away everything and it's great. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I don't want to do that. And so that
Well,
was,
and you probably want to ask, what does this white pill what will it do to me? If this one is causing liver failure, what will
yeah,
this pill do to me?
I knew I didn't want to go there. So, but to each his own, and so I let her take her little white pill. But yes, and so I was to the point where talking to friends, to family, just to find out if it was that point in time in my life because I'm older, and or was it the difficult class, or what was it? Because it's scary to think that you are losing your mind or you can't remember things. Yeah, it was scary and I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, and the question I think it was I was reading a little bit through your history just to refresh my memory and all of it yesterday, and one of the things that you said it felt like it was an early onset of Alzheimer's.
Yes, very much so.
That
Yeah.
must be scary when you think, well, is it really my age? Because you're not really that old. You look no more than what, 42, 45 there.
Oh, you're so kind.
But you walk away with thinking you have an early onset Alzheimer's. It's not like I'm getting older, but it's really, am I failing? Is my body failing?
Yes. Yes, it was very scary. I didn't like it at all. And the thought of
Okay.
having to go to the doctor and try and meet that reality was even scarier. So I was thankful to again come across you and see the changes that were able to happen through the diet, through the mindset, through all of it, because it is a process. It's not just one thing or another. It's
Yeah, which is, a great point to bring up. I had somebody spoke with one of my coaches a couple of weeks ago and said, well, if it's just the diet, I can do it on my own. I'm like, oh, honey, this is not just the diet. This is so not just the diet, because the diet is what a lot of people will do to start losing weight or gain weight. Well, yes, we do have some people who try to gain weight, although majority of people are always trying to lose weight. But diet is what you can do, but the mindset is what you have to be in order to maintain the health. So those were your symptoms. So it was Alzheimer's like symptoms,
yeah.
or you're trying to be Russian and English at the same time here. My words are not coming out right. That's a different symptom. It's not permanent. But then you also had energy where it was not as great as you would want it to be. You were on medication. There was the fear of radioactive treatment or losing your thyroid. What else was it that you were going through at that time, Nikki, that made you feel like it's not just my age, but there's something really wrong?
I just think all of those things combine, and then um, just not being able to be physically active as much as I was. Prior to even being diagnosed, I ran and I did, I exercise every day and stuff like that. And so I just didn't have the energy, or I was very tired in doing that. So it wasn't, I don't think, benefiting me to the way it was before I had been diagnosed. Um, I'm not sure, I'm positive that it affected, my family life and how I um, handled stress with my son and my husband, because when you put on a difficult class and then you put on not
Mm-hmm.
feeling well, or you're tired, or you're crabby and you think you're losing your mind,
Mm-hmm.
all those things come together and just culminate and just make for um, a life that you would rather not have at that point in time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it does. And when you're not yourself, then not everything in your life is impacted, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
You're showing up, your relationship with your husband, and I think you have quite an amazing husband.
Well, thank you.
Um, but and your son and other things in your school. So your ability to earn your income is possibly impacted because God forbid you start losing your mind and forgetting things,
Right.
losing your thyroid, then you're constantly wiped out. Then we become more short tempered when we're not ourselves too.
Right.
Cannot
Which doesn't help
communicate
when
or
you're teaching second graders, or when
yes.
you save it and come home and then you take it out on your husband.
Yeah, yeah. And then sometimes when we think like, oh, we just need stress management, but it does go beyond just that because when a body is sick, then some frustration comes out somewhere somehow.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I would agree.
So that was impacting you on so many levels. So when you were reaching out to me, was for you is you had to become your number one priority. And you spend your whole lifetime, it seems like you had others as a priority. Your mom was not feeling well at one point. You were teaching second graders. You have a son, husband. So Nikki had to come into number one place somewhere.
And that's my personality. I think it's our personality as women to start with, but I think, in that disc that we do, that was also a part of my personality. And so, yes. And so even taking the step to entering your program was a very difficult decision and a big step for me. And had I not had my husband say, Nikki, do it. I've done this, this, and this. You need to do this. You know, I might not have. So, but I knew that I needed the coaching. I needed somebody to kind of take my hand and walk me through what I needed to do.
Mhm.
Because I know I had looked at a program where they just kind of laid it out and I would have to do it myself. And,
Mhm.
and Jerry said, no, Nikki, you pay the money and do it this way because this is what you need. And I knew that, but I was thankful that he said that as well. So
Very smart because what we see is, do you see that there's a bookshelf full of different books? That's a lot of for people that we talk to. Is they try this program, and usually when things get tough and there's nobody to reach out to or either cry to or get frustrated with or something else or just to calm your fears, it happens that people will move on from one thing to the next one very quickly.
yeah. And
So
that, I think, is the best thing about your program, is that you are there, and that when I had questions, concerns, anything, not only do we have a Facebook group of women and not only do we have coaches, but you are there as well. So an email, just a quick email, this is what's going on, this is what I'm thinking, you know, you help talk me off a ledge, or just help me feel better about the process that I was going through. So yes, it was very beneficial.
well, awesome, awesome. And for you, so okay, 2 weeks in, you're starting to see progress is happening, more energy. You're not crazy anymore. Memories coming back. But we also, I know one of your big goals was, and this is what everybody always wants to know: is it possible when you have Graves, which Graves is really an autoimmune disease, this progression of hypothyroidism? Is it possible to cure it? Is it possible to heal it? Is it possible to become medication free? So we're going to start on the medication part. So for you, the way we approach it is, God forbid you come off medication without talking to your doctor, but we talked about this process and you made the choice to go slowly through your tapering off, right?
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about your decision making process. What made you feel comfortable to start saying I can possibly have a life without medication, and how you went through this whole process for you to get there?
The idea of being medication free was always my goal. And being in the program with the group of women, it was like, well, this person got up there. I'm like, okay, what's going on? This person, I'm like, what is going on? But each time I went back to my doctor, I told her what I was doing and I told her what my goal was. And so she knew that. And so when my numbers started reflecting, that something was happening in a positive direction, she just said, all right, well, let's do this. You're taking one tablet. And I know I wasn't taking a lot of medication to start with, but it was more than I wanted to take in the first place. So
Mm-hmm.
then she said, let's do a half a pill. I was okay with that. So we did a half a pill, and then I went back, however many weeks later, and then numbers were going lower and getting better. And so then she said, okay, how about a half a pill every other day? Great.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did every other day. And then, numbers still kept coming down. And okay, well, now let's try just Mondays and Fridays. Great. Okay, we'll try Mondays and Fridays. And by the time, by the end of it, because I what started in August, and so it was March that I went back, and she said, you know what, your numbers are great, and obviously you taking this half a pill on Monday and Friday, it's not sustaining, it's not doing anything. And so she was wise enough to know that, it wasn't doing any good for me. She said, let's take you off and then let's check you again in, a couple months and see how you're doing. And so we did it. And so I just went back and had my labs redone. Things eked up just a tad. They're still in the normal range. So she said, let's just repeat labs in 4 months. So,
Yeah, and
and I
that's
have,
normally whenever you go off medication, your thyroid needs to relearn what it's supposed to do. And so we even, so those of you who are watching, we give our clients up to 6 months when your thyroid can possibly go up and down. So the miracle with you really is that your numbers are improving off of meds, that there's a slight shift
yeah,
within the range. So your
yeah.
doctor officially told you, I think in March, that your Grays is now in remission.
Absolutely. So I was thrilled to death, and I was thrilled to not be on medication. And yeah, it was exciting. And I'm not somebody who gets excited too easily. I'm somebody who has to have the proof in the pudding, and so I was waiting for that day, waiting, but I knew it was coming. It was just going to take a little longer. And actually, for me, the coming off of medication slowly was probably the best thing. Just because I knew that it was working and that what I was doing, I just needed to keep doing,
Right.
and it eventually would work.
Right.
So
And that's why we do take personality assessments, because there are some people who come with a higher like decision making score to where, oh my God, last year we had what Tracy, when she was doing the interview, she's like, me, I just went off of it overnight. Like there's a personality type that you can do it and succeed. And there's a personality type when you're super cautious and God forbid you do it, you're going to crash and burn just from doubt alone. So just knowing that, and this is another benefit of actually, we do have our clients take personality assessment tests to where we know what might be too much for you.
okay.
Because if fear, and we always have this conversation, Elena, I want to be off medication. I always go say, okay, this is what you can talk to your doctor about. However, what do you feel about it? Because we need that feedback to where you think that the comfort zone is too much for you. And so the fact that you're mature, so you're not old, you're mature. And because you're not old, and we've proven it now, your brain is back. But you were mature enough to understand your personality to work with that, and the patience. And we all love overnight success stories too. And we had them 2 months
Yeah.
later. They're symptom free, they're medication free, fantastic. But what thrilled me about you coming on to this interview, Nikki, is that it didn't happen overnight. So your symptoms did go away within about a couple of months, but you coming off medication was more of a process, and it was working with your comfort zone, as opposed to saying, oh my God, let's all go crazy and do everything that, other people do. But it's really knowing and working with yourself.
Well, right. And I also know that in my job, there's stress and, and other things. So to be able to keep my mindset where I needed to be to help that, because for me, that is probably the biggest thing, because I can do the diet now, and I have my husband who's helping with the cooking and stuff like that. So that part, like you said, is the easy part. It's this part that's not so easy.
Yeah, let's
I
talk
try to-
about that. And I know every woman's like typing in the message right now, send your husband our way. We want a husband who cooks. But and plus I do want to talk about Jerry as well. But let's talk about that. We always tell our clients that diet, once we teach you the diet, is the easy part.
Yeah.
And it's really is. And somebody was Kelly on one of the posts. She asked, "So do you have to be vegan to do this or for this to work?" The answer is, it's really, really beneficial. And I am vegan, but when our clients come to work with us, there are certain restrictions, but we don't ask them to go vegan. So there's a little bit of playroom to where we can have you, Kelly, still heal, and you're not vegan. But there are certain circumstances or conditions sometimes where I would highly recommend it. And then we're always at the end of the day, because we're not concentration camp here, we give our clients all the choices. If this is what you want to do, this is great. But if this is not what you want to do, it's going to take you longer to get there. But
Can I interject?
absolutely.
The diet thing, I did have somebody ask me, when I made that initial post that I was off medication, and then she contacted me and asked me what I did, and I said the one thing I had to do was I followed your eating plan, because I'm a rule follower, I'm sorry to say, but I followed it because I was going to do it the way you said it needed to be done, because if it didn't work, I didn't want it to come back on something I had not done.
Yes.
So myself. So when you said you can have, this much meat, I didn't. When you said you can have an egg a day, unless it was in my gluten-free bread, I didn't. That was just for me because I had to do that for my own psyche.
And it's in a great way, because if somebody asks you to follow a certain protocol, and I do have, so we have the rule followers, and I love them. I love you, Nikki. And we have rule breakers. When I look at that a personality profile, sometimes like, okay, I need to get ready for this. And we have them like 3-4 weeks in, I'm going to break this rule and this rule. And oh my God, Elena, it's not working. We go back. Okay, let's do it Elena's way. And then the easy cases are always the ones that are 100% compliant. It's like, Elena asked me this, Elena, what else can I do? And this is the thing that makes things absolutely possible. So it is the smart way to do it, because if it's not going to work on my side, then I need to know why. If it's not going to work on Elena's side, I need to know what's going on there. And for me, I always tell people, are you 100% compliant? Okay, come back to me and talk to me when you are. And this is when we know what's not working. Because otherwise it just defeats the purpose of having a coach or following a plan. Why follow the plan? Right. But for you, so the diet became the easy part, right? Elena says, I do, right? But so you said the biggest work that you've done was here. So talk to me a little bit about the work that you had to do on yourself in order for you to get to remission of Graves, completely medication-free, symptom-free, and not feeling like you're fatigued and tired all the time, not having Alzheimer's-like symptoms.
The coaching calls that we had on mindset were wonderful. The meditation, I absolutely love. I have to say that I do it, we did it your way, we did it some other ways. For me, what works best is I shouldn't say every night, but during the week, every night for a half an hour before I go to bed, I take my Chromebook and my headset and I go in our spare bedroom and I just type in YouTube guided meditation for healing. And I slap them on and I go through all different kinds, healing ones, deep sleep ones, because I know it's the sleep that helps you heal. I've done them for Graves' disease, just like, I don't know if I'm saying it right, binaural beats. Have you ever heard?
Yes, absolutely. Those are very powerful.
So just different things. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's what I do before I go to bed. And then Friday, Saturday, it's weekend and I'm doing other things. And so I don't. So that was one thing that I still do, because my mindset. And if my mind tends to wander, I always say, stop, change,
yes.
Those things, get back to where you need to be. I have to say, I don't write in my gratitude journal. Although I have it, but I'm a prayerful person, so I have a travel to and from work. So in the morning, that's my quiet time. So that's kind of like my gratitude journal, only I'm just, thanking God.
You're saying it out loud or thinking it in your heart or praying it, so it's still happening.
Yes. And then I became more aware of stressors, like times with my son and conversations with my son and how I was approaching them and what I needed to do to fix that on my end. And that's helped a lot.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it is the biggest work that we do is always in ourselves. The diet, so the things outside of ourselves, they're easier to fix. But the problem is that when I was looking up statistic, there is over 16 million people in America alone suffering with thyroid issues. And everybody, because we don't really want to fix the person that we are, what we do is we ask the doctor for a pill, because then we don't need to do the foundational change. And what you've noticed is very amazing, right? Is the relationships, is the way you think about yourself, is the way you might or might not be grateful for things and so on. They can actually make or break your health. So the diet, the foundation, that's always there. But what we have seen is even people with great diets can still suffer.
Yeah.
And that goes down to how do you process. So before your complete healing, being off medication became possible, you had to have an idea and a thought that I want it, it's possible, let's act toward it. Because if you didn't have the thought, if it's possible, you would have never tried it.
True. And that's something, again, a mindset you have to get used to, is thinking, I am healed. My thyroid is healthy. I can do this, I can do that, and thinking it and feeling it and knowing it, because then, like you said, your body just goes along for the ride. Whatever your mind is telling it, your body just does. And I share that a lot of times with a lot of other people. We just have to have that thought, because, like our car goes in the direction where our mind goes, that's our body does too.
Yeah,
So
and I love that, and I think you summed it up beautifully. You think it, you know it, you feel it. So the transition is, you cannot feel and experience the healing unless you had the dress rehearsal. How would it feel to be whole? And everybody's always asking, Elena, what do you actually do? So this is giving away too much of a secret sauce, but this is what we do, right? You had to feel and experience, what does it feel like for you to have clear brain and lots of energy and be medication free. And then when it finally happened and your doctor told you, Nikki, you can go off medication, was that any surprise for you?
no, I think it was more of a surprise for her. I have to just pause for just a second because I only have 6 minutes remaining in the battery. I have to go get the plug. Hang on.
I'll entertain, I'll do a little
Okay.
dance. So let's see, we're going to do it this way while Nikki is gone. We're going to put this in the corner. So if you have any questions right now, is a good time to start typing them in. And I know I have several screens going on and I'm trying to get to all of them. I should have created just one post, but with the reminders, it was going everywhere. So if you have a question that you want me to answer, go ahead and post it right under this video. And I'm hopping in. We have it in a couple of groups and we have it on the Galicious page. So if you have a question, go ahead and post it so we can answer it for you. Let's see, I'm keeping an eye on all of them. But we start with the dietary changes, and Nikki is back. So Sorry. There we go. We start with the dietary changes, but at the end of the day, the thing that makes you want to sustain your dietary changes, it's always the bigger picture of why, right?
Yes.
For you, why was, I don't want to have liver failure. I don't want to have radioactive treatment. I don't want to have my thyroid removed. I want a better life. I don't want to feel like I'm going to lose my mind. But what is it that is now? So you've been declared that you're in remission from Graves in March. It is June now. Are you still staying on track with that lifestyle?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nikki's like, okay, this is such a basic question. Believe it or not, we do have women ask sometimes, so Elena, when I'm well, can I go back to living and eating the way I was before?
For me, it's not, I wouldn't even want to, simply because I don't want to go back to where I started. And so, and it's probably easier for me because my husband, eats the same way and stuff like that. So we cook, and I would probably eat the same thing over and over again. He's the one who's now got us on Pinterest searching and, making menus and all that good stuff. So, so it's probably easier that way, but no, I wouldn't. And my family all knows that. And if we ever go to gatherings and stuff, I just make all my stuff and bring it. I don't expect anybody to cook anything different for me. And actually, I have a niece and a brother-in-law who have made dietary changes, but they did the sensitivity tests. So if you
Okay.
ask me, my way of eating is far easier than trying to accommodate them because he
Mhm.
can't have pepper. He can't have, there's just these odd things that he can't
Right.
have that were, well, I can have, okay, so I can't have, so I don't eat meat, I don't eat eggs, and I don't do gluten. Well, big deal. I mean, there's
Not a big thing. But what I love is what you're really talking about here, Nikki, is that you didn't have a victim mentality. And here's what we hear sometimes. Oh my God, but it's going to be so hard. And our conversation is always, what is it harder to follow a clear plan of action where you're going to get well, or harder to lose your thyroid,
Mhm.
and harder to have the radioactive treatment and maybe have liver failure. So not having that victim mentality where like the world owes you something, but taking full responsibility is probably your personality saving grace. There's a method, it works, why quit?
Right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I will be honest, the diet at first was overwhelming and
Mm-hmm.
it was hard. And my husband, prior to this, he did all of our cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I did this change, he basically I was kind of like on my own and he did his own cooking and he still eats his own fish and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that he wants to do. But he made me do it because he knew if I didn't do it, you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't become a part of who I am and what I need to do.
Yeah.
So that was hard because trying to find a time in between teaching and everything, it was difficult. Um, but
But the question is, was it worth it?
absolutely. And then yes, absolutely. And then when he saw, all that went into it, then he decided he was going to lend a hand and stuff. And so then we started grocery shopping together, which, made it a lot easier. And
And I think this is the question that we're kind of led into without even looking at Achi asked, what role did your husband play in your healing journey?
he gave me the push to join your program, which I needed. Um, all along, he's just said, "This is what you need to do. You're doing this is what you need to do," and he full-heartedly supported that. Um, he watched, how I was eating and then realized it wasn't that difficult. And he likes to eat that way anyway. So then he kind of joined in the grocery shopping and then he joined in the cooking and the finding Pinterest. And so just being there to support. And now we're just a team. So every weekend, we sit down and make out our menu and then both of us or one of us does the shopping and then we spend one day cooking and preparing things that we can have to at least get the week started and then that we can have for lunches and
Mm-hmm.
and then add things in the week because we both work out. I work out in the morning but he works out at night, so we kind of tag team and then he gets something started, goes to work out, and then I'll finish it and stuff like that. So it's really become a routine now, which is really nice. So he's played a big role, but considering I've always been there to support him, I think it's probably his
But
turn.
isn't it what a partnership's supposed to be about? We talk to a lot of women, so 99.9% of our clients are women. We get them on a call sometimes, and the conversation is like, "No, I need my husband's permission, or I need my husband to get on board with it." I'm like, "Isn't it supposed to be, like you said, a tag team? When Jerry needs you, you're there for Jerry. When you need Jerry, he's there for you." So vice versa. But you think that somebody else is responsible for your health is almost like giving up too soon.
Yeah.
But with that aside, let's talk about Jerry a little bit because Jerry watched you so well, which I loved. Our last call, Jerry was like, "Why didn't you talk about me?" Is it okay to talk about Jerry a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about Jerry. Jerry was having his own things going on, and then Jerry said that it was so easy to be what Nikki is that he decided to do most of it also.
Yes, he is. He actually, Jerry probably ate better, worked out more than I did in the whole process of our marriage. He kind of brought me along, but then together we've made a really good team. So yeah, so he was watching me go through the program, and we were, first he was eating his own things, and then we started eating together, and then eating more, and he'd be like, I'm so hungry. I'm like, that's because you're not eating enough. You need, and he's like, well, I don't want to eat your stuff. I said, let's just make more. So then he started eating, and he's always had higher cholesterol, even though he's very fit and even though he's works out and he eats well. He's always had higher cholesterol. And so he was having a health assessment and things done for work and stuff like that. And so um, through his diet, his cholesterol came down to a point where it's never been that good. And he was like, wow. And then he wanted to sign up for some more life insurance. And so he called and made the appointment, and the nurse came over, did all this testing, and they do way more testing than, health assessments do. And so he got a phone call, he got an email. This person from the life insurance company was trying to get a hold of him, and finally did, and said to him, I've never had to do this in all my years of this job. He said, obviously, the company thinks you're going to live a very long time because they'd like to offer you more life insurance and at a greater, like money wise, and because your numbers are so great. And so he was very excited. So, to say the
Yeah,
least.
well, and that is most people as we get older, what happens is there's less life insurance and now it costs more if you're trying to provide. So my husband and I always had life insurance, especially now that we have a child. But normally when they reassess it every now and then, what happens is it becomes more expensive. So to hear like you're going to get more for paying less or about the same, but getting more, that is something to celebrate.
Yeah, he was very excited. I still beat him on the health assessment though. It's always a competition, but
Oh, I love it. So you guys find something to compete over, right?
yes.
Let's see. We have another question from Debbie. She said, "How do you see your healing continuing now that your the initial program for you is completed? What do you plan to do to stay the course?"
I plan on my healing just continuing. I figured when I went back and had my labs done in April, and then there was a slight increase. I wasn't initially worried about it just because I figured there's got to be a time span in between. I also kind of stopped my probiotic, and anytime for throughout this whole process, anytime I have stopped, gone less medication or stopped something, I've always had 2 weeks or more of an adjustment period where my body is trying to figure it out, but it actually kind of goes in reverse, and then I actually have symptoms like I had that put me on medication, which is why you and I had that one, long conversation about it
Mm-hmm.
because I needed to be talked off the ledge. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I'm just going to stay the course with my eating. I'm just going to stay the course with my meditation and prayer and everything that I do because I am a rule follower. That's just now my routine, and that's just the way life is. This summer, which should have been a little more relaxing. I'm teaching summer school, and so it won't be as much, but still, I'm going to take time for me. And so I just see it getting better and staying off medication. My plan is not to go back on medication at all.
Yeah,
Um,
so you have another 60 years left in you. What do you want to spend it as? This is the big why that we talked about a little bit earlier. Your cause, the reason why you want to be healthy has to be bigger than right now.
oh
Right now
yeah,
is always great, and a lot of people will forget what we call it now in a program amnesia. When you felt so really, really poorly, crappy for a long time, and then in 2, 3 weeks you start feeling great, you're like, oh, I've always been great, and now I can go and misbehave a little bit. And now when the symptoms come back, they remind you, but we cannot have that amnesia because we always remember. The point of reference was 4 years on medication, and that did not feel great. And I want to live to be energetic and full and cancer free and symptom free and thyroid issues free and heart disease free. This is the big why that keeps you on it. And then I personally haven't looked back in over 10 years now since I changed my lifestyle, because I remember when it
yeah.
was 5 years depression, the weight piling on and hair falling out and infertility. And it's nothing. That alone keeps me compliant my whole life now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, nobody, and it doesn't matter where you were, because wherever you were, that point was not a good point, which is what brought you here in the first place. And so nobody wants to go back there.
So remembering when, right? That's
Yes.
why one of the things that we do is we have our clients keep a gratitude book. And this is what I'm grateful for. And you go a year back and your first gratitude was, I'm grateful that I have too fewer symptoms. They'd be like, oh, I had those. It's just a good way to remember things. What was your journey like? So, talking about that. And Debbie says, I look forward to hearing about your continued progress. You're going to rock it. Debbie is another one of our graduates, so she knows exactly what it takes to get to it and keep it. We have another question from Barb. Barb said, is there a specific diet to follow? We touched on it a little bit, and specificity gets a little bit more pertaining to the person. So when Nikki came to work with me, we have the foundational diet, whole foods, plant-based, but then we'll look at what is your condition. Is there an autoimmune disease? Is there a digestive disorder? Is there a food sensitivity? So while Nikki needed to go gluten-free, my other clients might not have. While Nikki, did this, the others would not have. So it would take a personal assessment to really know what that takes. And that information, really, if you want to, and Barbara, in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you how you can schedule a discovery call with us to see if we can help you. But that information is specific to a person. So when Nikki mentions things, I'm like, just don't run off and do what Nikki did, because what was right for Nikki is Nikki specific. That's why people always ask me, Elena, when are you going to write a book? I'm like, I don't know. I've been so postponing for the last 10 years because when Nikki comes to me and Archie comes to me, two different personalities, two different family situations, two different thought processes, different medications, you cannot account for all of that in a book, and you really need that. So books are great launching pad. They are like, okay, this is the kind of lifestyle you want to do. But sometimes if you're not careful, you can say, okay, Nikki mentioned probiotics, then you can mention this, oh, I need to go do that. And all of a sudden what you're going to find out, it might not work for you in the same way. And for Nikki, 2 weeks, like a setback after making a change, and always knowing that's why it was great to have a coach. Probably like, oh my God, I'm going to quit. And it's like, no, don't do it yet. While for some of our clients, when they cut down on medication, there are no symptoms whatsoever. Again, and then I had a client, it took her 4 weeks of setback, like 4 weeks of talking her off the ledge. Just don't quit yet. Just a little bit patient. And we've had people who might would get impatient and walk away. But this woman was amazing. 4 weeks. Like, just don't quit yet. Don't quit yet. Week number 5, when it got to it, off of medication, doctor told her that, 4 or 5 of her illnesses were gone all at the same time. The things is, it needs to be specific to a person. And that's why the same pill that works for you for a while would have hurt another person.
And that's the beauty of your program, is that you have you there who sets the guidelines and says, this is what you should follow. And and again, the saving grace for me were all those recipes, because if I had to do that on my own, absolutely, I would not have been able to do that. So now I've got them all in a binder, and I go back to them and I make them, and yeah.
Believe it or not, I have them in a binder, and I go to them like, what do you want to cook today? And you think it's all in my memory, but you end up with 200 some recipes. It's harder to keep them around. Yeah. But fantastic. So for you, from everything that we heard today, let's see if there was any other question. No. From everything that we heard today, it was a journey that your husband had to kick you into. You were reluctant in the beginning, but now you are kicking his behind and actually having better numbers and better outcomes.
We worked out.
Yes. So it was worth it for you, and you have better plans for your future, as opposed to planning them from a place of disease to planning them from a place of your health right now. So last year, you just wanted more energy to show up on the first day of school.
Yes.
And how have your life planning has changed since then?
Oh, well, I'm very much looking forward to my son getting married this October, and the dress that I have and the personal training that I'm going to do to fit, to look good in that dress. And just, looking forward to retirement, even though it's a ways away, but, and the things that I will be able to do. And I guess more or less too, just hopefully getting back the creative side of me, which I had so long ago. To be able to put back into my teaching and be able to put back into my life, and the spontaneity kind of things that I had before, whereas when everything else happened, it just kind of stopped. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to all of that.
Yeah, and it isn't amazing though when things happen to you that stop the creativity, the spontaneity. So it chipped away at your personality.
Yes, it did. Yes,
And
everything.
so next year when we're going to get back together, we're going to do a follow-up. You're going to tell us how you climbed what Mount Rushmore and went skydiving, scuba diving, or something else, right?
Sure.
And painted a masterpiece.
There you go. There you go.
No, it's
Yeah.
fantastic, and it's been nothing but a pleasure to watch the steadfastness that you have in you. To where
Well,
we have seen people, it's like they get 80% better, and then there's this, or 90%, there's 10%, and there's impatience, and they're off to do something else, or the steadfastness of going back to the basics, and it's always the basics that keep us well.
yeah.
The diet, the meditation, the gratitude, all of those. It's not like it's rocket science, but most people will fail at it because there's no foundation or accountability.
I agree. And again, it was the program and the coaching and everybody that surrounded you during that time that, for me, anyways, helped me stay the course.
Right.
And so now that I'm not in that program, I still have support, of course, but I'm able to take it and do it on my own, and it'll work. And
now Jerry's back to cooking.
good tonight anyway. Yeah, we take turns. It depends.
Fantastic. Well, if you've enjoyed Nikki's interview, and I've enjoyed it very much, thank you so much, Nikki, for your time today. And you'd like to find out if it's a possibility for you to accomplish get the same kind of results as Nikki has gotten.
Yeah.
And if you have the same resolution about your health as she did, then and only then reach out, because we don't want somebody who is like, well, I'm going to think about it. Maybe I'm not hurting enough. We usually, and Nikki will tell you this much, the women that come to us, we're the last hurrah. We're after the doctors, after the naturopaths, after the osteopaths and the voodoo doctors and all the woo you can get out there. We're the last possible try. Well, we're the Hail Mary of health. And so we work with women who have just had enough of all those things and want a final possible solution that will solve the problem once and for all. So if you want to find out if this is going to work for you and if we can help you, because we never take on a client that we're not sure we can help, then what you can do is reach out. I'm going to post a link in the description of this video, but I also posted the link on the screen right now. Is www.vega-licious.com/apply. And I'm also going to add the link right under let's see if I can do it here. There we go. Right under this video. All you have to do is just click on the link. You're going to end up there and book a call. And it's going to cost you absolutely nothing. We take that time to look at three things, really. Can we help this person? What is really going on? What does she want to accomplish with her health? Now, if you're a guy, what does he want to accomplish with his health? And then are they going to be committed to the process? Because we do not work with quitters. And the last criteria we're looking at is, are they going to add to the energy that we have in our group setting with our clients? Because we want to make sure it's a healing environment for all of our women. So it's not like a lone ranger out there, I'm going to do it or not do it. We believe that one affects all. So we're looking at, do we want to work with that person? It's a qualifier that most doctors don't have, but we do here. It's only because we really believe that healing is a co-creation process. I told Nikki what to do. She had to go and do it. Nikki had a question or a problem. She came to me. So we were working together hand in hand. And we want to make sure that whoever you are, that you can handle that kind of commitment to your health. So again, it's www.vega-licious.com/apply. And you're going to end up on the landing page where you're going to fill out the information. If you're driving right now and you want it again, we're going to put it in the comments and description of this video. And we're going to see you on a call and one of our coaches will speak to you. Nikki, thank you so much for your time again. Send Jerry our love. We appreciate him and the kind of partner that he was for you on this healing journey, because without him, you probably would have said no.
I probably wouldn't have joined me, right? Yeah, it was great.
Well, good night to everyone, and we'll see you next week with yet another interview. There you have it. Did you enjoy today's podcast? If you did, make sure to subscribe to my show. And don't forget to tell others about it too. If you'd like to get more information about me and what I do, how I help amazing human beings just like you achieve their optimal dream health, go to www.360impacthealth.com. to the contact page and shoot me a note. Thank you so much for listening. I will catch you on the next episode of the Health Wizard podcast.